Welcome, everybody. My name is Mina Jane, and I'm the director of the Ashland Public Library in Massachusetts, because I know we have people from all over the place. I'm really thrilled to be here with my friend Jennifer Gehly He, who's going to be talking about AI, something that artificial intelligence, something that we've all been hearing about, but might not completely understand. And Jennifer's going to break it down for us, tell us how it is as if we were 5 years old. If you ever watch Philadelphia, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But before we get to Jennifer, I wanted to say a couple things. One is I'd like to thank the Friends of the Ashland Public Library who support all of our programming. We could not do this kind of stuff without them. Also, Jennifer, who agreed to let us partner with some other libraries because, you know, when libraries work together, we're like magic. We create magic. So our magical partners in this program are Arlington, Danvers, Hanover, Lexington, Newton, North Reading, and Tewksbury. Welcome to all the patrons of those libraries, as well as Ashland, because, you know, we're like the bomb. So I wanted to let you know that we are going to be, Jennifer has a presentation, as you can tell. She's going to be talking for about 20 to 25 minutes, giving us an overview, and then we will take questions after that. Please put your questions in the Q&A. There's a button at the bottom of your Zoom screen that says Q&A, and I will be moderating those at the end of the conversation. As I said, we're recording, so we will be sending out a recap email after our program with all the details, including Jennifer's slides, so you don't have to like be busily taking notes unless you absolutely want to. So to get started, Jennifer and I have known each other for, I don't know, since like 2015, a long time. And Jennifer is I would say my tech guru. She can do anything. So when she told me she was starting her own company on creating websites and doing some teaching and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, that totally makes sense. So I'm really thrilled that Jennifer's here and that she's going to teach us something about something that we are all curious about. So Jennifer, welcome. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Well, thank you so much, Mina. I am so excited to be here. I feel like I need to thank the Ashland Public Library and particularly the Friends of the Ashland Public Library for sponsoring this. And also thank everyone who showed up today because it's really amazing that you're all interested in AI. I'm interested in AI too. That's, a big part of my work.
Yeah. So um, go ahead and do your slides. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And like I said, tell us all about AI so that we totally understand it after that 20-minute or 30-minute discussion. And then we'll have
Yeah.
lots of questions for you.
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. My name is Jennifer He. I started my career. I got my master's of library science at Simmons University. And when I was at Simmons working on my master's of library science, I was taking a lot of tech classes, web design classes, usability classes, learning about innovative, really awesome technology. So I've worked as a web designer for 15 years. And I've also done a lot of presentations on, cutting edge tech topics. Around like 2018, I started presenting on chatbots and natural language processing tools. And then, recently it's been a really exciting time for me because there's been about, a pretty large explosion or renaissance, if you will, of AI tools that have hit the market that are available for, just regular consumers. And so it's been really fantastic for me to be learning more about AI and incorporating it more into my work and also empowering other people to use AI in their work and just to make their lives better. So again, like I said, I've worked for about 15 years as a web designer, UX specialist, and I teach technology classes to students and librarians. And then I founded a company called WebGlow AI, which we do website and we use AI tools as a part of our web design strategy. But we also started teaching AI to people. And one reason I started doing that was because I've been, teaching AI through like conferences and, different webinars and things. And I realized a lot of people have a lot of fear and trepidation or they're worried about like job security. And I also saw a lot of people kind of throwing their hands up and saying, oh, this AI is so powerful. It's so fantastic. Should I keep writing? Should I keep drawing? And I became really concerned about this because as somebody who's using AI a lot, I can see both the positives of AI and I can also see the pitfalls and the negatives. And so I decided to, pivot my company a little bit more to teaching AI, really so I could empower people to use the tools to make their lives better, but at the same time, not be afraid of the technology and not worry about how it could like displace their work. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of a story. When I was 7 years old, I learned how to knit my first pair of slippers. It was actually through a 4-H project, and I grew up on a sheep farm, so we had a lot of wool. Around the age of 20, I started creating my own knitting patterns. And you can see on this picture right here, I was creating these like little cute knitted toys, and I was creating the patterns from scratch. It was only 20 years later that I realized using AI tools that I could create unlimited knitting patterns using a tool like ChatGPT. This almost seems unbelievable to me, and maybe some of this AI seems almost unbelievable to you. Like, how in the world could this AI, algorithm, how could it create unlimited knitting patterns and actually do a really fantastic job? And so, like I said, I can really resonate with people who are, worried about this technology or concerned about it displacing their work or making it so you kind of feel like, oh, I'm going to throw my hands up. I'm not going to design knitting patterns anymore because there's an AI tool that can do it. I really resonate with that. But I think what I'm hoping my presentation will convey is that one of the best things you can do with this AI is you can partner with it. So you can have the tools help you be more productive, more creative, and strive for better wellness in your life rather than just kind of like, dismissing it, throwing it away, or ignoring it or being scared of it. Rather, I'm asking people who are participating today to form a partnership with AI and say, how can I make myself better? How can I make my life better if I'm using these tools to help me make my life better? So again, my company is at webglueai.com. We've just started offering courses that teach AI tech tools to people who don't have a lot of, coding experience, or maybe they don't have any experience in, programming and like in tech. We're also going to offer an AI camp, which I'm really excited about, which is going to be like a really fun way to learn AI with like hands-on, arts and crafts and, writing ghost stories, doing kind of all those like really fun, creative projects. We also offer AI tools consulting along with web design that with, AI integrations. So today's talk, I'm going to do an introduction about AI. We're going to talk a little bit about ChatGPT and AI assistants. Then we're going to go through some tools for productivity, creativity, and wellness. And then we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So for the introduction, we're going to, again, talk a little bit about like a definition of AI, how does AI work, general AI versus narrow AI, and then some pros and cons about AI. So for a basic definition, I chose this one. It says artificial intelligence leverages computers and machines to mimic the problem solving and decision making capabilities of the human mind. This definition of AI is a really broad definition. So some examples of AI that we have today are like a much narrower set of this kind of more broad general definition. So some examples you might be familiar with are self-driving cars, natural language processing, which is actually like translation tools. So going from one language to another. So online shopping and social media actually have AI embedded in them. And typically it's one of those things where like you might be on Amazon and you're shopping and then Amazon's like suggesting products to you, right? And so those are actually, sometimes we call them invisible AI because it's AI that's behind the scenes, but we're actually not really aware that it's there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about general versus narrow AI, and I'll explain like why this is so important for people to like wrap their minds around. General AI is basically what we think of when we think of sci-fi or we think of like C3PO or R2D2, where we're thinking about perhaps like a robot who has AI built in and they have like almost human-like intelligence. They can do what's called transfer learning, which means that they learn one thing and they can easily transfer that skill to learning a totally separate thing. They might have like real level, like a higher level of consciousness or self-awareness, and they have like a human level form of communication, They could perhaps make ethical and moral decision making, and they have like a lot of creativity. This is the type of AI that we see a lot in the news. And when people start writing articles where they're trying to like scare us and they're saying things like, oh, AI is, going to take over the world and we should be so scared. And they're talking more about general AI. But the truth is, right now, with the way technology is going, we're not in the realm of general AI. We're in the realm of narrow AI, which is AI that can do a very, very specific, narrow, limited task. It is so specific and so limited and so narrow that I don't really like to use the analogy of a calculator, but it does help me to think about this AI as being like a calculator. And the reason why I'm going to say that it's kind of like a calculator is because a calculator is really fantastic at doing math, right? And it can do it quickly and it can do it really well, but it can't do anything else besides math. And it really can't make decisions. It doesn't know, like when you give it a math question, it doesn't really know anything. So you have to think of narrow AI kind of in that way. So when you're working with a tool, an AI tool that's basically built, it's called machine learning, all it can do is a really specific task. And one of the interesting things about this is the more specific task we give a narrow AI, the better it's going to be at it. So if we give it like a broader task, it's going to be fumbling around, it's going to be making mistakes on left and right. And also, if you've noticed, if you've worked with a narrow AI tool, it's absolutely not perfect. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But one of the reasons why it's not perfect is because the technology, it's getting better and better, but it's just not, it's not as advanced as like it could be like perfect. It's just not. And we're going to talk more about that. But some of the things about narrow AI is that it has no common sense reasoning. It's really, really limited with learning. So for instance, it absolutely, if you give it a task to perform, it might perform that task well, it might learn how to perform that task well, but it's not going to be able to go into like a whole another different, it's not like a human where it can learn something and then learn something completely different. It cannot do that transfer learning that we're talking about with general AI. And then it has a lot of difficulty with novelty. A lot of narrow AI, believe it or not, doesn't have much memory. And a lot of engineers say that that lack of long-term memory is really what's going to like halt our ability to get more into a general AI situation in the future. There's no ethical judgment. It has limited amount of creativity. And so, and we're going to talk more about, narrow AI and these tools. So how does this AI technology work? Well, really simply put, and of course, I'm just talking about narrow AI. How does that work? One example that I kind of really enjoy giving is an example that was actually given on a video. Google has a program called DIY, which means do it yourself. Like, um, sorry, it's yeah, DIY. So it's like do it yourself, like for artificial intelligence. And I actually might be saying that wrong, but they have a website where it's like you can go on, you can build these like little chatbots, these like little, it looks very makerspace, like it's like a little robot. And they have a video on there where the engineer is talking about trying to explain AI in terms that, we're like making it simple and it's like a really understandable way to understand AI. So he says, what if we were creating a dog door and we built an AI so that it could recognize animal faces, so that if it recognized the animal face of our dog, it would let the dog in. But if it recognized the face of like a raccoon or a cat, it wouldn't open the dog door. So he says in the beginning, if you can like imagine, let's say we created our algorithm, we created our programming for it, and we're just trying to get it to figure out like, can we get it to recognize the difference between like mush and an actual animal face? And what would that look like? Like what kind of data set will we be using? So one thing we might do is we might give it a data set of like thousands and thousands of animal faces to try to get it to just like learn when it's perceiving the environment, how to like scan an animal face and to like figure out like, is this an animal face or not? And then slowly, and we can see with this like little grid right here, it says perceive environment, detect patterns, and then it updates with understanding and decision making. And then it's going to go back around to perceive environment. Every time it goes through that iteration, it's actually getting smarter and smarter. So maybe in the beginning, it's like barely understanding what the dog face is, but or even an animal face. But then at some point, what we're hoping for is that the algorithm is going to learn to get smarter and smarter and is actually going to be able to decipher not just a dog from face from a cat face. It might even be able to recognize like the differences between dog breeds or even our dog versus another dog of the same breed, that's in the neighborhood, might actually be able to distinguish like the really nuanced data, right? So this is one way of kind of understanding how the machine learning works. Another thing I want to say about it is machine learning is really, really great at solving real world problems, but the real world problems have to be limited, not broad, because if it's really limited, we can get the machine learning to do really well. But if it's broader, it's going to struggle. And honestly, problems that are real world problems that are broader, it's probably much better for our human to be working at solving that and for us to not be giving that to an AI. So some pros and cons of AI, you might already be familiar with some of the pros, but some of them are, it's just really efficient at what it does. So it's really fantastic for automation of, like limited simple tasks. It can reduce human error, although I have to be honest, one of the cons is that it's not perfect. Um, like I said, it's able to solve some really um crucial or maybe not so crucial real world problems, but it's really, really good sometimes at doing that. It can help with some improved decision making, but I still feel that with a lot of decision making, it's better to pair AI with a person. And then it's really fantastic at looking at huge amounts of data and actually making predictions based off of data. So we do see this like being able to make predictions from really large data sets. There is a potential cost savings there. So instead of hiring a person, you may be able to have some task, be able to give it to an AI. And then it does have some creative potential, but I would say that creative potential is limited. And then there are a lot of cons with AI for sure. Like I said, it's not perfect. And that actually, in some ways, when we talk about like image generation, it not being perfect isn't really a big deal because we could easily just regenerate an image. But when you talk about AI not being perfect in the realm of like self-driving cars, I mean, unfortunately, a self-driving car, if it's not perfect, it could, run over a pedestrian. And so not being perfect, it might seem like, oh, this isn't really a big deal, but in a different context, it actually could be a big deal. There can be privacy concerns with AI for sure. There's job, displacement issues. Then there's most certainly misinformation that could be spread with AI. So for instance, there's um, a concept called deep fakes where you could, fake a news story using AI and make it seem really real. There's 100% for sure copyright concerns. And one of the issues with AI is that with copyright is that it's a real gray area right now. There's not a lot of legislation about this. And there have been a lot of concerns about AI generators. What kind of data sets are they using? And are these data sets, like particularly for image generators, did artists really truly give their consent to let their artwork be a part of the data set? Um, then there's a lot of potential bias issues with AI. And I'll be honest, some of the potential bias issues with AI is that the AI actually, as it's learning, can become more biased. But a lot of it, like what I've heard engineers say, is that it's actually because the data set that the AI is drawing from is biased because the data comes from humans and humans tend to be biased. And so there's a lot of issues there. And I can also say, like some of the issues that we've seen crop up with this, like one example that comes to mind is that there's an AI that I believe Amazon was thinking about using to screen candidates for jobs. And they realized that it was extremely biased. It was pulling out a lot of candidates who were male, who were, white, and it was ignoring like women, or it was maybe, suggesting women for like lower pay jobs. So I believe Amazon decided not to continue using that for, screening resumes. And so we kind of see this like bias issue more and more. And then, of course, there can also be safety and security risks. One example of that is that somebody realized with one particular AI that they had used a lot of data in the data set that was sensitive data. And so engineers were actually able to pull up people's social security numbers. When I say that, I don't want to scare people because that that particular AI I don't believe is public at all, but people are just saying that there are potential security risks. So we're going to learn a little bit more about ChatGPT. One of the reasons I want to focus on ChatGPT is because if there's one tool that you're going to learn today, or one tool, because I'm going to throw a lot of AI tools at you, give you a lot of inspiration. But if there's one tool that I would recommend somebody learn, like if somebody said, can you just give me one tool? I would actually recommend ChatGPT. There's a number of reasons for that. One of the biggest reasons is that there's a lot of AIs that are actually built off of the same machine learning model that is the ChatGPT is kind of built on. It's like one of the reasons because OpenAI is open source. And so there's a lot of tools out there that are actually using some sort of OpenAI in their model, and they're just kind of tailoring it to like a specific so like for instance, there's one AI tool out there that where you can make Christmas cards, and it's more than likely using OpenAI's model, but it's like tailoring it to like, oh, let's just make Christmas cards. But if you learn ChatGPT, if you get comfortable with it, you can actually do a lot with it. So the first step would just be to create an account. You go on OpenAI and you have to create like your username and password and all that. Then when you're inside the dashboard, you'll see it has a really simple interface. On the bottom, it has this like send a message text box. And you literally could just type in, it's called a prompt, a text prompt. And then you're going to press this like little, submit button. Then you can look at the response. And then honestly, it gives you an ability to regenerate or resubmit the prompt. And then a helpful tip for about this is that ChatGPT can also help guide you in creating something, but you have to be very specific for what you're looking for. So an example of this would be if I wanted to create a knitting pattern and I wanted to create a hat, I do really specific and let ChatGPT know what I'm looking for, or otherwise it could give you like a strange answer. So the more specific you are with ChatGPT, the better. And you will notice, even if I was really specific and I said, I want a knit hat, I want to use like worsted weight yarn, and I want to keep it, I want it to be for myself. So I want to be like adult size, but I want to keep it within like a certain amount of yardage, let's say like 200 yards of yarn. It's more than likely it's going to give me a pretty good response. However, it might give me something a little bit strange. I might have to resubmit my prompt. And then another thing about it is that what was I gonna say? I was gonna I feel like I'm losing my train of thought. Um oh, and so another thing about it is that when you're submitting the response, I mean, sorry, when you're putting your prompt in the text box and it gives you the response, you have to realize that it's pulling from a huge data set and it's like, done, it's like all its machine learning. The response that you get might not be perfect, right? And so it really does take a person to read the response and analyze it and make sure, like, actually, is this knitting pattern going to work? Most of the time, you'll notice the ChatGPT is trying to do the best job it possibly can by giving you like the most plausible response or the best response it can, but it might not be fully accurate. And a lot of people say this, they'll give ChatGPT something that's very, very specific, and they'll say, it gave me an answer that like seemed right, but it wasn't totally right. Yeah, absolutely, because ChatGPT is a no. It's this is not generally the AI, this is narrow AI, and it's just pulling from a data set of data that was created by humans. And so it doesn't really know. It doesn't know. So if you're looking for something where you want that exact precision, honestly, I would recommend go to a person, go to a librarian, go to someone who's an expert in their field. Don't take it to an AI. Now we're going to talk a little bit about AI assistants. This has been a trend that I've seen more and more of. There's one that's called Pi, which is really great. It's very much like ChatGPT, only it gives you like a little bit more of like a personal feeling. So you actually feel like you're talking to a person. There's another AI assistant that I really like. It's called Replica. And it's really interesting because what Replica does, it kind of combines like video gaming with AI, which is sort of interesting because it lets you create like an avatar, which kind of has a really human sort of like video game feel. And then you develop a relationship with that AI avatar. And the AI avatar can help you do really, like common things. can answer questions. It could help you perform different tasks. But what Replica is marketed for is an AI companion who cares. So it has like journaling prompts. You could like ask it for like business, like coaching advice. It tries to help you with like mental health related topics. It also has like a really kind of cool like journaling feature. Um, there's if you take, I guess it's called Zapier, and you combine it with ChatGPT, you can actually schedule appointments and you can like set reminders for yourself. Um, and then some of these assistants do a really great job with in the realm of like creativity, like suggesting ideas, like brainstorming, generating content. We're going to talk a lot more about this. And then along with these AI assistants, we see a lot of like wellness possibilities where you could do like meal planning, you could create a custom exercise schedule for yourself. And then, like I said, Replica does a lot of stuff with health related, like self-help, mindfulness, journaling, kind of like along that realm. And the other thing I'll say is that there's like a million AI tools out there. There's so many of them. And so this presentation, I try to focus a lot on AI tools that I find are going to really be helpful for you. But then also I focus a lot on tools that are free, or what we call freemium, where they give you a good amount for free and then they kind of ask you to pay. But one reason I do that is because I feel like that's really helpful. I don't like to encourage people to buy something, particularly if they don't really know if they're going to use it, if they're going to like it. So a lot of the tools I'm talking about are free or like freemium. Um, we're going to talk for productivity a lot about writing tools, because this can be really helpful for people. This writing tool is called Notion AI. It is a little different from ChatGPT in that it has collaborative wikis, collaborative docs and projects. Jasper is interesting because it does a lot of consistent branding content. Like, so the writing that you're giving to it is going to be consistent. This type of tool is actually really helpful for me in web design because I'm doing a lot of work where I'm trying to make sure that the text on someone's website is consistent along with their social media and their email marketing and everything, right? So this can be really helpful for somebody like me who's a web designer. There's a really cool tool called WriteSonic that does a lot of copywriting and paraphrasing, which can be helpful. And then there's a tool called Copysmith, which is SEO optimized, which can be really, really important for people who are in business. Then there were some really cool tools I found. I was actually kind of surprised about this, that use AI to help people achieve deep focus. This one tool called Focus Me, I thought was really interesting because what it's doing is it's a platform where it's using AI to match you with a co-working partner. So it's kind of interesting because if you're like me and you're working from home, um, you could actually use this and it can help you. Like, so it's connecting with a real person, not an AI, but it's using AI to match people. And then there's some other cool products I found. This one's called Focus at Will. It has focus optimized music. And this other one called Focus Me. This was like an app that you download, and it's supposed to be like a website blocker to kind of block out social media and other things that could be distracting. Then there's some cool planning and scheduling tools. There's ones called Clara. It helps you schedule and manage tasks. Trevor is a free tool that helps you manage tasks and create to-do lists. There's one called Chronologic, and it helps you manage a whole calendar and schedule meetings. And then Scheduler AI, which is a tool that helps you manage and schedule social media posts. But I think it's slightly different from Hootsuite and Buffer in that I'm not sure if it actually sends the posts out, but it definitely can help you create like a content calendar. So then there's some really fantastic tools for goal setting. There's one called Coach Me, which is an app, and it helps you create goals and track your progress. And to be honest, they really are using AI for these. Like, AI is integrated into the platforms, and so it really can do kind of a lot of like the work for you, kind of the busy work that you might do yourself. There's one called Habitica, and it's more of like a gamified version of setting goals and achieving them. You get to like pick an avatar and you could form like a team with other people. And so it kind of has like sort of a quest, like video game feel, which is fun. And then this one called Fabulous is really fantastic. It helps you with like a wide range of stuff, like helps you, it has like a habit tracker, like journaling, daily challenges, and it's available on iOS and Android. So now we're going to talk a little bit about AI tools for creativity. Um, there's some really, really awesome ones in this realm. So for AI image generators, you might already be familiar with AI image generators because these get a lot of attention, a lot of hype. One of the most popular ones is called Midjourney. Midjourney is not open source, it's a company. It does a really great job with images. I can show you like this cat right here that's looking out of this fabric. This is totally generated by Midjourney. Then there are some other ones that are good. They're free. They're open source. They might not be as good as Midjourney, but they're pretty good. And I have to be honest, like if you were to sit down and do some of this artwork using digital tools, it would take you hours. If not hours, it might take you weeks. These tools are so fast. So one of them is called DALL-E. Stable Diffusion is an interesting one because not only can you create image generators, but you can also turn your images that you make on Stable Diffusion into animations, which is really cool. And then this one that's called Dream Up, I really like it because it's created by DeviantArt. It's not as good as Midjourney, but they market themselves as being an image generator that's friendly to artists. So the data set that they're using, they were able to get the permission of artists to use like their art, this artist's art in the data set. So it's a kind of like a more responsible way of using an image generator because you know that the artist consented to putting their art in the generator. So then we talk a little bit about like stuff you can do with image generators because it's really cool to generate art, but then I feel like sometimes people get a little stuck about like what can I do with this fantastic art. So I've done a lot of stuff with with AI generated art. One thing I do a lot actually with it is making coloring sheets because it does a really great job with that. You can make decorative papers for scrapbooking. You can make really gorgeous vintage prints and art prints, and you could, sell them online or you could just have them up on your house. It can make paper dolls, garlands, cupcake toppers. That's like a little bit more of an advanced skill, honestly. You have to get a little bit better at knowing how to get the AI generator, like make something that looks a little bit more like a paper doll. And this is actually the kind of stuff that my company is working on to like train people on how to use Midjourney to get a little bit more specific with creating things like a paper doll. It does a really good job with logos and icons, but again, it's a little bit more like a specific skill you might have to learn. You can use it for illustrating books and children's books. And it also does a really great job with print on demand products. So if you look, it's the upper right, this t-shirt, this image right here, something that was created in Midjourney, and we were able to put it on a print on demand product. So then there's some really cool AI tools for drawing. This one is called NVIDIA Canvas. It's really cool because basically it turns simple brush strokes into like beautiful landscape drawings and pictures, and you can like choose the styles. There's a more like simple tool that I actually really love for people to like play around with, and I think it's really good for kids. This one is not perfect. It's called Auto Draw. I believe it's made by Google. And basically what you do is you start sketching like a really rough sketch, and it like immediately sort of magically starts suggesting things that it thinks you want to draw, and it will show it to you. It's not perfect because sometimes when I try to draw on it, I'll be trying to draw like an ice cream cone and it might not come up with an ice cream cone. But I definitely think it's a really fun tool to play around with. And I think if you're doing anything where you're teaching children, trying to teach children AI, I think AutoDraw is kind of perfect for that. Then there's one called Deep Dream Generator, which creates really cool fantasy pictures from photos uploaded by designers, and it does a really fantastic job. So then this one tool I absolutely love, and I've been using it more and more. It's called Uizard. One reason I've been using it a lot is because it gives you whiteboards where you can collaborate with them. So it feels a little bit like if you took Google Docs and you mixed it with Canva. If you don't know what Canva is, Canva is a tool where you can do a lot of graphic design work for free. Um, but the prototyping on here is really fantastic. So I use it for a lot of like brainstorming, like wireframing projects. So an example I'll give is that I opened up the tool and I gave it a little bit of a specific of what I wanted. So I said, could you write a SWOT analysis for me for my business. And I explained, give it like a little bit of background. And it immediately created a SWOT analysis. I couldn't believe it. It did a pretty good job. And then, of course, it gives you the ability to change whatever it is. So if you look on right here, I created this in a matter of seconds. I basically just said, I am looking for a prototype for an app. And it created this immediately, this design, like in a second. And then you can like keep building it out. You can keep adding to. So this tool is just really, really, I feel like it's so fantastic. Um, so now we're going to talk a little bit about patterns and designs. If you are looking to create patterns for like sewing patterns or knitting patterns, that kind of thing, I actually recommend right now that you just go to ChatGPT and you create patterns on there. You could even ask it for like recipes and stuff. But there are some, and this like slowly coming out that there's more and more AI tools that are like specifically for, like recipes or specifically for like creating like sewing patterns. So there's one called Patterned AI, and it lets you create patterns. But when I say patterns, I mean more like a pattern, like a calico pattern, like that kind of thing. There's this one software that I really like is called Pattern Smith. This is a software that's more like installed on your computer, but it makes you able to create more complex patterns. So if you're like a designer, you want to create, let's say like a pattern for like a fabric or something, you might want to consider Pattern Smith. Then there's this one that's called DNA, and it's like an AI personal stylist. This is like for clothing, fashion. And another one I found, which I thought was really cool, is called Room GPT, which is a tool that helps you visualize and plan for like interior design. So you could upload a picture of like your room, or I think you can like tell it what you're looking for, and it will like automatically with AI kind of like give you suggestions and start creating a room design for you. Then there are some really fantastic tools for creative writing. There's one called Hemingway. I believe this is an app, and it helps improve like the clarity and readability of your writing. I think you can also give it suggestions like to write in a particular author style, which again could start honestly like going into the territory of like copyright or like trademark issues. But it is really cool to play around with it. And I think and for myself personally, I think sometimes these tools could actually make you better at your craft. Um, then there's another one called AI Writer, and um, it's a little bit better than ChatGPT in that it's really just made for writing, right? And so again, it's like one of those you type in a prompt, you ask it, maybe you're looking for like a blog post, maybe you're looking for an article, maybe you're looking for something, and then it's going to do probably like a really fantastic job at generating that writing content for you. So then for podcasting and video, some of these tools I feel like are so helpful. Again, they're not perfect, but they're so time saving because if you've ever done podcasting or any type of videography and you're maybe putting it on YouTube, or maybe you have a podcast and you're like working really hard to make your podcast every week. Some of these tools are editing tools. So they're using AI to edit the content for you. And so it could be so time saving. So instead of hiring an editor, you could decide to use one of these tools. So one of them is called Descript. It does podcasting, video editing, and a little bit of music production. There's one called Pictory, which is another editing tool. This one actually makes professional videos in like minutes, and I've tried some of these. They're pretty good, although I have to say, typically when I use one of those tools, I'm assuming that I'm gonna probably spend a lot of time like doing my own kind of editing and adding stuff. But as a quick like time saver, like get yourself kind of like up on the ground, like running, it's really fantastic. And then another one that I like is called Champ, and it's a browser tool that helps you make like quick and easy edits to videos. And it's really perfect for beginners because they have a really easy interface. Then there's some really great apps for creating music. One is called Jukebox. It's actually made by OpenAI. You can generate new songs and choose like from a variety of genres. And there's another one called Amper Music, which is really great. It's a library of different like types of melodies, harmonies, and rhythms, and you can kind of like choose from them, make your own music. I will say on this that I personally don't have much of a musical talent or musical ability. and I've never really dived into music. So I was really surprised, like pleasantly surprised at how I could make a melody that actually sounded okay by using these tools. And I have like no background or talent in music. So I think that for beginners, for people who don't know a lot about, like music, these tools are fantastic. For someone who maybe does music for a living, they might even like laugh about this, and be like, I could create something so much better, like, in not a lot of time. But for someone like me who's an amateur, these tools are amazing. Another tool I found, which was a lot of fun, although I have to be honest, I'm not sure if it's a lot of people are on this because I felt like the loading time of this was a little slow. But there's a game, it's called AI Dungeon, and basically it's using AI to create a video game, and you get to choose a lot of the stuff. So you get to choose like your avatar and what you want the storyline to be, but it's using AI to kind of like create the video game with you. And then you can be like playing the game along as the AI is like creating this sort of like fantasy world. And one reason I decided to show this was because I think we're going to be seeing more and more of this kind of thing in the future where um like a video game or, different things that are like very immersive, maybe even like a movie, people are going to have more control over it. They're going to be able to like kind of make it up as they go along, but they're going to be doing it with the AI like behind the scenes helping them. So now we're going to talk a little bit about AI tools for wellness. We're talking about different AI tools I found for like yoga, fitness, meditation, sleep. So some of them for fitness and yoga, there's one that's called Mike AI. It's a free tool that helps you build a custom workout and meal plans, which I felt like was really fantastic, particularly for free. Then there's another one called Get Active that offers like a wider range of workouts and fitness plans. It has like the AI integration that's built in. And then there's a really cool yoga app that's called Down Dog, and it uses AI to help create personalized yoga flows for you based on your preferences and abilities. Then there's some really cool meditation tools that have AI built in. One is called the Calm app. Um, it has the AI like personalization um, built in so that it's offering you guided meditations, like sleep stories and music tracks, but it's able to kind of like make it more personable for like what you're going through, what your needs are. This one called Headspace is using guided meditations and sleep stories, but it's saying that what's making it unique is that it has a mindful movement section, which offers guided exercises that combine meditation and movement. And again, it's using AI in this platform so that when you're doing your meditation and your movement exercises, it's supposed to be like more like custom built for you. So then I found this really cool tool that's for sleep. It's called sleep.ai, and it's actually able to diagnose issues for like snoring or grinding. And it's like through a mobile app. And again, one reason I'm showing this is because I feel like we're going to see more and more of these types of tools in like the health world where you could use an AI tool that could help you like diagnose a problem maybe or kind of like help make your life better. Of course, I'm always a little bit skeptical of this because I feel like sometimes when it comes to your health, oftentimes seeing a real specialist or a doctor really is the best thing. But if you like already know, like let's say you're already seeing a sleep specialist and you already know that you have some sleep issues, but let's say that your insurance company says, we're not going to pay for a sleep study for you. Using a tool like this might be a good way to, figure out, am I snoring too much? Am I grinding my teeth? Um, then I found some really cool ones for like life coaching and mental health coaching. This one, Jung GPT, is really interesting because basically you like type in, it's kind of like journaling. You could type in like issues that you're having throughout the day or, just for different things that are going on. And it's supposed to be like a more emotional chat GPT where it's supposed to offer you advice in a more like human-like way. Um, there's another tool called Wysa, and it's like a free mental health coaching app. Mood Pen is another journaling app that can help you track your moods and feelings. And then it uses AI to like try to give you advice based on like what's going on. This one called Daily O I really liked because it's like self-care bullet journaling, and then it's like kind of does like the mood tracking with the goals, and it has like a happiness tracker. And then Chai was really interesting because it markets itself as a conversational AI chatbot that helps with health and wellness. And it's sort of marketing itself as like one of the best chatbots that's on the market right now. So the call to action that I would like to give everyone is to, if you haven't already, to kind of like dive into the world of AI tools and try some. One reason is because you don't really get that much of a sense, or it's kind of hard to get a sense of where AI's strengths are and where its weaknesses are until you actually really start practicing using these tools. And so there's two ways to go about this. The first way is that you pick an AI tool that intrigues you and then you just practice it. But another way you can go about this is you can think about a kind of specific problem that you have in your life or in your work. And you can kind of like say, can I find a tool where I can actually use AI to like help me with this task or kind of like automate this? So it's kind of another way to go about it. There's a website that I really like. It's called www.topaitools.com. And it has a lot of free AI tools on there that you can kind of like browse through, come through. Some of the tools can be a little bit hit or miss. And so actually one of the things I'd like to do for my business is to create like a list of resources of tools that I trust that I know are really good. But most of the time on top AI tools, you can actually find things that really are intriguing that you probably, would be worth trying. They do have a section where they have like free tools and they have a section for paid tools. And so if I were you, I would start with dabbling in some of the free tools, seeing if you like them, seeing if there's any that you want to implement into your life. Um, and then unless you find something that you think is really amazing, and I would be like a little bit hesitant before I spent money on AI tools. Um, Unless you thought, it was a worthy investment. And then I'm going to end on a quote. This is from Dr. Fei Li, who was the founder of ImageNet. And ImageNet created a huge data set that was for like computer vision and creating a lot of the products that went into like these image generators are really popular. She says artificial intelligence is not a substitute for human intelligence. It is a tool to amplify human creativity and ingenuity. And I believe this so strongly in my work that the AI tools that I use, they're not substituting my talent, they're not substituting my intelligence, they're not substituting the work I do, but rather they're just a tool that I'm using that's making me be more creative, more productive, more, maybe I have more ingenuity in the work that I do. So I think of AI tools as a tool. I don't think of it as a way where like I'm not thinking of it as that it's going to replace me. So thank you so much for listening and learning with me. I I hope that you can join us again in the future. We're going to open it up for Q&A. If you would like to get in touch with me, feel free to email me at info@webglowai.com. This has been absolutely fantastic, so much fun, and I can't wait to listen to what your questions are and what you're thinking.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was
Yeah,
really a great overview. Do you want to stop your share? We do, as
yeah,
you would expect, have a lot of
absolutely.
questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to just do some really quick ones first, and then we'll get into some of the deeper ones. And I
Okay.
think if you're okay, we're going to go until about 11:15, just so we can get to as many as
Absolutely.
possible. Okay,
Yep.
so the first is, what does GPT stand for?
GPT.
Chat GPT.
I used to know the answer to that. Hold on.
I guess it's not that quick of a question.
It's okay. So I had to look this up online because I didn't remember what ChatGPT stands for. It's saying that it's the GPT is standing for generative pre-trained transformer.
Okay. Yeah, somebody just put that in the chat as well. Thank
Okay.
you, Margaret. And what does SWOT, SWOT, stand for?
So yeah, a SWOT analysis is a marketing tool. Um, So yeah, so I had to look it up just to make sure I'm 100% sure about this. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So marketers use SWOT analysis a lot. Um, and a lot of times, like, so how I used it the last time I used a SWOT analysis is that I'm trying to figure out for my own business what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are, opportunities and threats. So I'm also trying to compare it to my competitors and kind of trying to see like how can I position my business so that I am able to do a really great job with my business. So it's a way you're creating an analysis of that to like look at that. And I believe I was talking about SWOT analysis with the UEZard tool. Yeah, the UEZard tool is fantastic. I really recommend it a lot to people. It's not perfect. Like it definitely needs somebody to like after you're done creating something on UEZard, definitely needs somebody to like go through and edit it for sure. But I was really shocked at like what it could create in a second based off of a really specific prompt. So I'm not paying money for it right now at all. I'm just using the free version. I really liked it. I think it gives you like a limit on how many boards you can create.
Mhm.
So who knows, maybe in the future, if I keep using it, I might pay for it. But for now, I'm just using the free version and I feel like it's really great. And actually, um, for a presentation that I'm giving on Thursday, I'm going to use the tool because we're doing a brainstorm to come up with like different AI or tech related programs that librarians might be interested in. So I decided, well, why not? Why not just, demo the tool? Because it also reminds me a little bit of Miro board. So if people don't know what Miro board is, it's like a whiteboard that I believe a lot of teachers use it. And it's like a collaborative tool where you could have a presentation and like you set up the whiteboard and like it lets everybody collaborate at like live at the same time. So the UEs is kind of able to do the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really fantastic.
So I think like
Yeah,
a lot of our questions really are about
yeah,
security and copyright. Um,
yeah,
those are obviously questions about the strike that's going on, the writer's strike, things like that.
yeah.
And certainly as a librarian, I wonder, how does it affect writing and things like that. So can you just quickly sort of give us an overview of why that shouldn't be a concern? Because I know that AI sort of works as a scraping tool. It scrapes across a lot of different data sets that
Yeah,
already exist.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that's interesting about it is that one of the lawsuits that's against Midjourney is it's happening because artists are saying, look, we believe that Midjourney used a data set of work. I don't know and where they used that data set. I think a lot of people are assuming it might be like Google Images, right? Um, but and so they're saying that the artists, it's a copyright issue because the artists are sorry, the AI is using a data set of art from artwork and artists didn't consent, right? But what I can say about, so the truth is, we don't know where Midjourney, and I don't think Midjourney has disclosed where they got their data set. I was actually reading this book recently. It's called You Look Like a Thing and I Love You by Janelle Shane. And she's an AI engineer, and she talks a lot about AI and all of these issues, like security issues and copyright issues. And one of the things I learned when I looked at this book is that a lot of the companies actually are using data sets where they're allowed to like scrape the data, where they're actually getting permissions. A lot of them are trying to do it more responsibly. That's kind of what I gathered from the book. Although some of them, I don't know if it's 100%, like if they 100% got everyone's consent, because one of the products she talks about, she says that Amazon was using using data from thousands and thousands of people leaving product reviews, those responses. However, Amazon might have something in their um, on their platform saying like if you leave a review that belongs to us, and like Facebook has that too, right? So some of these companies I think are able to get around that by saying like, look, if you're going to post on Twitter, if you're going to post on Facebook, you own it, but Facebook or Twitter owns it too. So they might argue we're allowed to pull from a Facebook data set, let's say. talking specifically though, like ignoring the data set and just talking specifically about whether or not the AI art that you are creating is copyright or not. It's totally an area that's a shade of gray area. One of the reasons is because there's no copyright laws that are about whether or not a robot is creating the art, right? So copyright is protecting humans, not robots. So some people say if I create something using AI, there's no copyright issue here because the robot created it. And then of course this gets really complicated because I'll be honest, in my work and work I see from people all the time, we're seeing a lot of AI created stuff that has a pinch of AI. So maybe somebody wrote an entire book and they just used AI for the cover art, right? Or maybe they wrote most of the book themselves, but they used AI to create like just the outline of the book, right? So it just gets really, really complicated. I think this is one of those areas where more legislation needs to happen. Like we need to wait, like to kind of see how this unfolds. I can also say there's been a lot of news articles, and I'm sure people that are watching have seen it, where somebody like didn't grant somebody the copyright for a book because they said a computer, I mean, an AI created it, not you. They feel like too much of the book is
Mhm.
created by AI. If you're concerned about creating something because you're concerned about selling it online, you really have to look at the terms and conditions of the AI tool that you're using. So, for instance, I use Midjourney a lot, and Midjourney says that I'm sharing the copyright with Midjourney, but I'm allowed I actually pay for Midjourney, so I'm a pro user. They're saying that I'm allowed to take that work, I'm allowed to put my own copyright on it, and I'm allowed to sell it. But I believe what they're trying to say by them saying that Midjourney owns some rights to it is I think they're trying to say, look at we can take the art that you created on our platform and we can do whatever we want with it, including maybe put it into our own data set, or we could like use it to advertise something or whatever. Um, and we see a lot of these copyright things too, not just with AI, but also with like YouTube and Pinterest. I mean, this has definitely happened in the past where people have said, I don't really know if I'm comfortable putting my video on YouTube because I own some of the copyright to it. YouTube does as well, but YouTube lets people embed my video on their website. You know what I mean? So it starts getting tricky. But what I would say to like caution people if you're using AI tools and you're like doing writing with it or whatever, what I'd say to caution people is that copyright still exists and trademarks still exist to protect people. So that's why when I go online and I see people who like, let's say make print on demand products, like they're making t-shirts, they're really, really careful about not making a t-shirt that looks like Pikachu, let's say, because they know that's a Pikachu, it's copyright, it's trademark. So I do the same thing actually when I'm on Midjourney. I don't ever say like, oh, I want to create art in the form of a particular artist because that doesn't even feel good to me, like that. I mean that artist, as long as they're still living, there's probably some copyright protection there, right? So you do have to be really careful. And then and also it's hard for me because I feel like I can't give a complete straight answer. Like if somebody came to me and they said, "Oh, I want to write a book. I want to write a book using AI." I actually might caution you not to. I might say, "You know what? Write a free PDF on your website with AI, but don't write an entire book using AI because I don't really know if you're going to be able to copyright that in the future." And also, if you kind of look more into the future, because it is an unknown, it's hard to say what's going to happen in the future with this. So I
Right.
would say use AI tools when you think it's appropriate and you can, but don't like go overboard, use a lot of caution. I actually use AI the most at this point on like policy documents and things where copyright doesn't matter that much.
Mhm.
So if I have a thing on the bottom of my website where it talks about like refund policy, like I use AI for that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to use AI on like writing a book, let's say. I just won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is AI actually a computer? Like, how they had it on Jeopardy, whatever that they named their computer. Is it an actual computer or is it software or something else?
I think it's best to think of it as like programming,
Mhm.
honestly. So it's programming where they've made it, and of course it's complex
Lots.
and there's layers, right?
Yes.
But so as if you think of software as like programming, right? AI can be in a robot, could be integrated into a robot, right? But the way I think about AI, and I think a part of this is because my background is in library science and I had to take like a Python class, right? So a lot of AI actually it is created with Python, although there's more languages that are coming up, more computer languages that are specifically for AI. But Python is a real common language that they use for AI. And so if you ever you have any program experience, you'll know that literally you're writing a set of instructions in a programming language. So you have to think of AI like that. It's not if you think of it more like a robot, like it could be a robot with AI embedded into it, I feel like you might be thinking a little bit more like in the terms of general AI, but we're not there yet.
Right.
But even with general AI, chances are it would be a computer program that's, a written program that's embedded into a robot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Carol asks, how
Yeah.
large of a data set do you need in order for it to be considered AI?
Oh, extremely large. And actually, that's what's in this book I was talking about. So they're saying that what a lot of engineers try to do is they try to start off with a smaller data set or a data set that is it's kind of like the smallest that they can get away with, right? But then she talks all about how the larger your data set, the better. And it's like for everything from is it going to work to helping against bias and prejudice. And if you don't have a large enough data set, your chances are your AI is not going to work. It's
Mhm.
just going to be too like limited. And so the data sets are large. But that being said, with the data set is large, but the data set's really limited. So in other words, like Chat GPT is going to be data set of text, right? That humans created, but they're not going to be throwing images in, right? Like it's very, very, very narrow and limited, the data set for like what the type of data is.
Mhm.
But it has to be large enough to like make it actually able to work.
Mhm. So somebody asks, how can we protect ourselves from privacy, safety, and security concerns related to AI? Which is an interesting question to me because, of course, we just don't know. But it sounds to me like the general AI is the thing that we have to be more concerned about than the other one.
Yeah, well, actually, it's interesting because some people say, so first of all, like we're not in the world of general AI at all. And some engineers argue that we may not never even get there. And I've heard engineers tell me everything from we might never be able to do general AI just because we don't have the ability to create enough power to power a general AI. And
Mm.
then I've also heard people say because of AI's like not being able to have a long-term memory, that in and of itself is going to prevent us from like moving forward, right? So a lot of this like doomsday stuff, I would just sort of like not even pay attention. I feel like it's a lot of like sensational, right?
Yeah.
But
Well,
when
what
it
about
comes
the
to,
like the deep
yeah,
fakes? Let's just like specifically, let's say the deep fakes. How not only that
yeah.
we get deep faked, but how do we know that something has been deep faked?
So I think the way I look at it is the stuff that we're already doing to protect ourselves, keep doing it. And also just be aware, right? So just be aware, like, I mean, right now, there's a lot of media that there's a lot of scams. There's a lot of stuff that's fake. We already know, we're already aware. But I would encourage people to just kind of be more aware of it and be more aware that right now you kind of have like a level of what you're expecting to be a scam. So when I get a weird email in my inbox and it just seems I'm like, okay, that's strange. I'm not going to open it. Or if I get some odd pop-up on my computer, I'm not going to click it, right? But I would say that what people are predicting is that this AI is so great or so good at imitating real life scenarios that you have to be more aware of something that you think is real could be created by an AI. You could be like duped. And at the same time, engineers are cautioning people to be really discerning about AIs that you invest in, because a company could say this is AI and market it something as AI, and behind the scenes is not AI, or it's very little AI. It's really people behind the scenes, right?
Mhm.
Right. So engineers are saying to be mindful of that too. Like, is this really AI? Is this company trying to deceive you and market something as AI when it's really not? Um,
So
but
in terms,
yeah,
yeah, in terms of security, then,
yeah,
the one thing we always hear is about social
yeah,
media and how
yeah.
AI is being used to generate a lot of misinformation. So how do we
Mhm.
protect ourselves from that? How do we, as a, as a librarian, I'm usually pretty good at knowing, if it's something's real or not, but I am lost on social media of knowing how to dig into that.
Yeah, so the truth is, I'm not entirely sure yet, honestly, because some of the stuff that I've seen has seemed really real to me. Like, I attended a presentation and somebody showed me that there was a deep fake of the Pope wearing a leather jacket or something. And when I saw it, it looked so real. I mean, I just thought, yeah, I would totally assume that that was the Pope, right? And it was completely and totally fake. And then I believe in the same presentation, they were showing some images of Donald Trump that again looked so real, but were fake. They weren't true. I believe it was Donald Trump being arrested or something. And it's really hard for me because I feel like it's hard because I am a librarian too, right? So I want to be able to say, oh, look for these things, right? I guess all I can really say is that I hate to say I like to not be so trusting, right? But I would just be a lot more um vigilant about like the images and the news and like what you're trusting, what you think. Like, maybe look at social media a little bit more, like am I am I going to just like kind of have a bit more of an attitude of like distrust, or maybe it's better to say an attitude of caution with it. Like, I'd be more cautious about it, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
And honestly, I have seen a rise. It is not even AI related, just in general. Like, there's a rise for sure of articles online that are even like going viral, where and then people start like everyone's talking about it, right? The people start chiming in, oh, it's fake, that's fake news, that's fake media. Like, we're already seeing this, and it might not even be AI. And yeah, it's really, so I think another thing just to be aware of is that we kind of live in a time where it's we really need to be humble, and we need to admit like we don't fully know, right? Like, we have to be a bit more cautious here. And maybe when you're on social media, like, before you just jump in and believe it and comment on that viral post, maybe you're a little bit more discerning and you say,
Mhm.
well, is this really real? Let me, like, try to validate this. Let me try to see if it's really real.
Right. So Scott asks, can ChatGPT or others, another source, create a
Yeah.
PowerPoint presentation if you give good information about the scope of the topic?
Yeah, so actually that's tricky. So I so of course there are AI tools out there that act like that's the case, and that they can do that and all that. What I've noticed though is that I am still creating my own presentations because the AI tools just aren't that good. And it's very, very much like the video editing tools that I showed, where it's like it can do a pretty good job kind of like creating the beginning for you, but it's not really able to create a presentation with the level of complexity that you need, right? And it's exactly what I was saying about AI, where like you give it a broad task, it's not able to do a good job. You give it a more limited task, it is able to do a good job. My hopeful answer to this, though, is that I believe over time we're going to see the technology get better and better, and they're probably going to be combining different aspects. So, in my opinion, like even just 3 years from now, I think there's probably going to be an AI tool that can create a fantastic presentation for you by using, just like you're telling it what you want and all that. But right now, it's just not the case. And one example I can give of this is on Canva. Canva has some sort of presentation, like, but I tried the other day just for fun, and I would say it produced like a fairly good like outline, but I couldn't even use it. I didn't even bother. I just created my own presentation, and But what I think AI is actually really good with for presentations is creating graphics for your presentation. And honestly, creating the basic outline. I think it does a really great job with that.
Hmm.
And then if you want to go to, of course, you should be careful with, like with copyright, right? If you want to go to an AI like Chat GPT and you want to say, oh, can you write? Because typically with slides, try to keep the writing down. Like you want to create like those bullet points, then I think it could. But right now, there's no tool on the market that can just create a presentation like fantastically for you.
Oh, that's good
Yeah.
to know. Jill asked, can an AI program use data input by a user for other purposes beyond what the user intended?
So sometimes Chat GPT or sometimes these AI tools will give you an answer that you were not expecting, but it's not going to produce something that's completely outside of the realm of what it was programmed to do, right? So an example of this, which is actually like why I said these AI tools are not perfect, is that I use Midjourney a lot in my work. And Midjourney produces a lot of pictures of people that are just bizarre, weird, like have six fingers on their hand instead of five. And some people get really frustrated and they say, oh, I'm not going to use it anymore. Like, I just won't even bother. But what I would say is like, no, it's actually still really a powerful tool. You just need to regenerate the image. And so that at some point it's going to produce the person with five fingers on their hand, not six, right? So sometimes it will give you a strange, odd answer. It might even solve something in a way you're not expecting, but it's not going to produce something that's completely and totally out of the realm of what it's programmed to do. So an example I can give of this, I was on YouTube and I was on a like a really simple like a tutorial of how to make one of those like really simple like bristle bots. And somebody, I think just to get a lot of attention, somebody put in the comments, oh, I just created an AI and it's like taking over my computer. And I thought, no, it's absolutely not. Come on. Like, it's just not able to do that. If you created an AI, if you even created one, it's absolutely not taking over your computer. Like, it just doesn't work that way. The book I was talking about, the You Look Like a Thing and I Love You, Janelle Shane does talk about instances where AIs solved things in funny, weird ways that engineers weren't expecting. So one example was they were having an AI go through a Super Mario Brothers game and try to solve it. And the AI was doing crazy things when they said like finish the game, like solve the game. Instead of it going through the whole game, it was doing things like pausing the game forever, or like it would find a way to like hack like the like go inside and like hack the game so that it would like just like stop, like suspend all the levels and then just get to the end and win. Like it was doing crazy things like that. And so artificial intelligence can kind of do stuff like that when they're working on the machine learning, but it's not, you have to remember, it's not a human. It's absolutely not, it doesn't know, it doesn't have consciousness. So it's literally just trying to solve the problem in a creative way. It's not able, it doesn't know what it's doing. It's not able to like jump outside of the program. You know what I mean? So anything that you read that's like that, just know it's probably not true.
So we're about out of time. And I just want
Okay.
to make one last comment before we
Yeah.
go, is that one of the things I've learned from you, Jennifer, is that AI is not, um, it's as good as you are. It's
Yeah.
as good as the input that you put into it because it can't think on its own yet.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
not for another 100,000 years, whatever, but that you have to do the work to get it to do what you want it to do. It's not like this magic bullet that you're all of a sudden you're going to have the best and most perfect emails or pictures or whatever. You have to put in the work. And I know that you did for some images for us that it took you a long time to figure out how to get the kind of image that you wanted. They
Yeah.
were also fabulous images, by the way.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And actually, that's why I decided to offer more AI classes because I realized that with Midjourney and with a lot of these AIs, there actually is a bit of a learning curve. There is not a learning curve in that you don't need to learn programming. You don't need to learn how to program an AI, right? But it's 100% what you said, Mina, because you could create really amazing things with the AI tools, but sometimes when particularly with like Midjourney and ChatGPT, you really have to learn how to write a good prompt and you have to keep generating it over and over again. Yeah. So in a way, it's a magic bullet in the sense that it can produce a lot of content for you really quickly, but it's not a magic bullet in the sense that it's like you don't have to do any work. So I think that can be really reassuring to a lot of people who might be worried about job security. It still really does need a human. One way I think about this too is I sometimes think about like factory workers and how people were scared when things started becoming more automated, but then people realized, well, we really need people to still be there to still like, press the button and still make sure the quality control is okay. It's the same thing with AI. We still need people to do a good job writing the prompts and then look at what's produced and make sure it's okay and edit it. Like we still need humans doing this work. And yeah, it's not, you're 100% right. It's not, this is not magic. It still takes people to do this work.
Yeah. And I want people to walk away with that, is that you can do it,
Yeah.
but it's not
Yeah.
the magic bullet. I am going to ask Jennifer to come back and do another talk with us because there are so many questions that we didn't get to. So maybe we could just do like a Q&A maybe in a month or two,
Yeah.
and
That
just
would be
answer all of these
awesome.
questions. I will send out the recording as well as the slides and Jennifer's contact information. So I hope that you guys all check in with her and ask her all of your questions, but we will do a part 2 at some point. Jennifer, thank you so much. I mean, the chat is just full of people saying this is not, it doesn't feel as scary to them as it did like an hour and a half ago. So
That's awesome. That's so awesome. Thank you so much for that feedback. That actually really puts a smile on my face. So,
well, I'll be in touch
yeah.
with you soon for all kinds of other fun stuff. But thank you again for spending your time with us and your expertise. Thank you everybody for being here and sticking it out with us. I think that this is information that we all need, and we just need more of it. So have a wonderful day, everyone.